Hey, what's going on everybody? It's ETA Prime back here again. Today we're going to be taking a look at the most powerful mini PC that I've ever tested on my channel. This is the all-new Intel NUC Beast Canyon. Now I do want to mention that this was sent over by Intel for review. I'm not being paid for this review, and I do have to send the unit back when I'm finished, but I've been really wanting to get my hands on the small form factor PC. Now another thing I want to mention is this is a reviewer case, which is absolutely crazy. If you do purchase one from retail, it's not going to come in a wooden box like this. So here it is, the Beast Canyon. This just happens to be the i9-11900KB version. They also make an i7 version. Now you can buy these pre-configured from some retailers out there, but most of the time you're going to pick one of these up and it's going to be bare bones. You're going to have to add your storage, RAM, and your GPU. This one just happens to have an RTX 3060 with 12 gigabytes of VRAM, but there is enough room to fit an RTX 3080 in this unit. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at it with that RTX 3060. If you want to see this running with a 3080 Ti, let me know in the comments below. So real quick, I wanted to give you a look here. We do have some RGB all the way around, and we also have a light up Intel skull on the front. I think this thing looks absolutely amazing. And when it comes to the size, this is an 8-liter PC. It's definitely not the smallest PC that I've taken a look at on the channel, but when it comes to the size versus what this thing can really do, this thing is an absolute powerhouse, and they named it the Beast Canyon for a reason. When it comes to I/O, this thing's not lacking at all. We have 6 USB 3.1 Gen 2 ports, 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports, 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, and a full-size HDMI port on the compute side, because with this CPU here, the 11900KB, we do have built-in Intel UHD graphics, but when you get one of these, you're definitely going to want to add a GPU, and like I mentioned, the unit I'm going to be testing in this video has an RTX 3060 installed. Up front, we have 2 USB 3.2 Gen 1 ports, a full-size SD card reader, and a 3.5mm audio jack. This also comes pre-installed with AX Wi-Fi and Bluetooth 5.2. On the bottom of the unit, we have easy access to an NVMe M.2 slot, so we can add extra storage very easily here. And while I have it in my possession, I figured I'd go ahead and pull the side panels off just to give you a quick look. I'm going to do just a quick tear down. Here's that RTX 3060. This will support a dual slot 12-inch GPU. It's got a pre-installed 650 watt power supply, and right behind that GPU, we have the compute element. That's what they're calling it. For this unit here, the Beast Canyon, you can opt for the i7 or the i9, and that's the version we have for this video. But it's actually really cool how they have these compute elements set up. As long as they make upgraded ones in the future, you could theoretically swap this out with something more powerful down the road. As you can see, we have 2 PCIe X16 slots in here, one for the element, one for your GPU. And when it comes to the compute element itself, it's all packaged together with the CPU, cooler, fan, and I/O. RAM is not included with the element. When it comes to the specs of the unit we're going to be testing in this video, we have that i9-11900KB, 8 cores, 16 threads, base clock of 3.3 with a max turbo up to 4.9. An Asus RTX 3060 OC, and 16 gigabytes of DDR4 running at 3200 megahertz. By the way, the Beast Canyon uses SODIMM RAM. We have 2 slots in here, so you can do a maximum of 64 gigabytes of RAM. So I've got it booted up. I'm running Windows 10 Pro. I've still got some stuff installing, but before we move over to my game capture, just so we can get a better look at everything, I did want to test out a couple games. So first up, let's go with Warzone. So here it is, running at 1440p with a high normal mix. We're getting an average of around 85 FPS. I'm actually really impressed by this RTX 3060. It's doing a great job with Warzone here, and if you wanted to get a little more out of it, you could drop some of those settings down or even just go down to 1080. But with the way it's set up like this, I'm more than happy with the performance we're getting out of this game. And I wanted to test one more before I moved over to my game capture. We have Forza Horizon 4, 1440p, ultra settings, dynamic optimizations are off. And yeah, this is another one that's playable at 1440p, but we're sitting at ultra settings with this one here. It looks absolutely amazing. And by the way, this is a 4K display that I have here. It's only 60 Hertz, but it's a BenQ 32-inch, one of my favorites out there. Alright, so before we jump into the benchmarks and some more gaming tests, I just wanted to give you a quick look here. As you can see, we have that i9 11th Gen 11900KB, 16 gigabytes of DDR4 at 3200 megahertz, and the GeForce RTX 3060 along with the built-in Intel UHD graphics on that CPU. But yeah, I mean, so far everything's been working really well. It's much quieter than I thought it would be, and the temps are actually really good, because going into this, that was the main thing that I was worried about. Mainly the temps. I can deal with noise, but this is doing way better than I thought it would. So now let's go ahead and take a look at some benchmarks I ran on the Beast Canyon. Geekbench 5 single core came in with an 1132 multi 7716. I was actually expecting a little more out of the single core, and I'm sure with some tuning in the BIOS we could get that, but like I mentioned, this is just right out of the box and plugged in. I also ran Cinebench R23, and we got a total multi-core score of 10,962. Now it's time to move over to some GPU benchmarks with 3D Mark. First up, we have Night Raid with a total score of 45,907. Firestrike, 17,363. And finally, Time Spy with an 8,705. Now, as many PCs go, this is a really powerful unit, but these are just benchmarks, and now it's time to test out some more games. So the first one on the list here is Dirt 5. I will have Afterburner running up in the top left-hand corner. This is Dirt 5 1440p ultra high settings. We got an average of 63 FPS out of this one, and if you drop some of these down to high, maybe even medium, we could get more out of it. But at 1440p for this game Dirt 5, it's doing a great job. Next up, we have Doom Eternal, 1440p, Ultra settings, and I probably could have went to Nightmare with it, but I think Ultra looks great at 1440. By the end of my run here, we had an average of 121 FPS. GTA 5, 1440p, very high settings. I know this is an older game. I tested it in all of my videos. It's one of my favorite games, but I actually wasn't expecting it to run this well at 1440p, especially with those very high settings. But we got an average of 127 FPS out of this. This also handled The Witcher 3 really well at 1440p, ultra settings. We got an average of 68 FPS. And again, just like Dirt 5, we could drop some of these settings down and it would still look really good, but we'll handle it at 1440p ultra settings.
Not so fast.
Here's Borderlands 3, 1440p with an ultra high mix. I tried this on ultra and I kept getting some dips under 60. It was a little odd, but as soon as I turned a couple of the settings down to high, it jumped on up to an average of 72 FPS. Cyberpunk 2077, they've actually come a long way with this game on PC. They've done a lot of optimizations. Here it is at 1440p with DLSS on, and with this 3060, we got an average of 64 FPS. And keep in mind, this is at 1440p, so 1080 is going to be much better. And the final game I wanted to test was Red Dead 2. I just ran the built-in benchmark. 1440p, ultra, minimum of 54, maximum of 90, and an average of 72 FPS. Every time I test these smaller PCs, I always like to check out power consumption. This is total power consumption from the wall using a kilowatt meter. Idle, 46 watts, which does sound like a lot, but remember, we do have a dedicated GPU in here. Average gaming, 236, and the maximum that I could get this to pull from the wall in my extreme test, which maxes out all 8 cores, 16 threads, and that RTX 3060, 321 watts. When it comes to CPU temps, it idles around 41 degrees Celsius, average gaming 69, and in a 10-minute Cinebench R23 test, we hit 84 degrees Celsius, but I did not have this thing thermal throttled the whole time I was using it, but once it hits around 78 degrees Celsius, you can definitely hear those fans ramp up. So overall, really impressed with the Beast Canyon. They definitely named it accordingly. And keep in mind, with the power draw, the temps, and the performance you saw in this video, that can be all upped with a better GPU. We only have that RTX 3060, but the Beast Canyon will support up to the RTX 3080. And I do have a 3080 Ti that I could probably throw in here. When it comes to pricing, these are kind of all over the place depending on where you get them, but they are very expensive. You're going to buy a bare bones kit, then you need your storage, a GPU, and RAM. Personally, I think you'd probably be better off just building your own PC in a bigger case. You can get out cheaper and get better performance, but if you're looking for the ultimate small form factor PC, definitely take a look at the Beast Canyon. I will leave a few links in the description. This thing is really amazing given its form factor. But that's going to wrap it up for this first video. We'll have at least one more coming up. I definitely want to test out some emulation, and I do want to spend a little more time with this unit here. But like I mentioned, if you want to see a better GPU thrown in this unit, let me know in the comments below. If you're interested in learning more, I'm going to leave a few links in the description. And if you have any questions or you want to see anything else running on the Beast Canyon, let me know in the comments below. But that's it for this one, and like always, thanks for watching.